Bullies mock the quiet kid. Huge mistake. He's a championship fighter in disguise. 15-year-old Ethan Chen slouched through the crowded hallways of Westlake High School, his slightly rounded shoulders and downcast eyes making him appear smaller than his 5'7" frame. His oversized hoodies and tendency to avoid eye contact had made him an easy target since transferring to the school 3 weeks ago. With soft features, messy black hair that fell across his forehead, and a quiet demeanor, most students hardly noticed him, except for those who saw him as prey. What nobody at Westlake knew was that Ethan's family had moved from Singapore, where he had been a rising star in mixed martial arts competitions across Southeast Asia. Training since age 6 under his uncle, a former professional fighter, Ethan had claimed 3 junior championship titles before his father's job transfer forced the family to relocate to America. Upon arrival, Ethan's parents had encouraged him to take a break from competition to adjust to American life, focus on his studies, and make new friends before resuming his training. The unofficial ruler of Westlake's social hierarchy was Derek Aldridge, a senior with broad shoulders, perfectly styled blonde hair, and a permanent smirk that seemed plastered across his face. At 17, Derek stood 6'2" and was the star quarterback of the football team. Where he went, his 2 loyal followers, Marcus, Webb and Tyler Jones, were never far behind. Marcus, nearly as tall as Derek but lanky, handled most of the verbal taunting, while Tyler, stocky and quick to laugh at others' expense, typically did the physical pushing and shoving under Derek's direction. Around them orbited a constantly shifting audience of students, some laughing along nervously to avoid becoming targets themselves, others watching uncomfortably but never intervening, and a few who seemed genuinely entertained by the trio's antics, as the indifferent teachers called them, when they bothered to notice at all. Setting Westlake High School stood as a sprawling brick complex in suburban Pennsylvania, its facilities recently renovated thanks to generous donations from wealthy alumni. For most students, it represented opportunity and community, competitive academics, championship sports teams, and state-of-the-art facilities. For Ethan, it had quickly become a maze of potential ambush points. The cafeteria, with its high ceilings and echoing acoustics, had become the most dreaded location. The vast open space offered nowhere to hide during lunch periods, with circular tables that required social currency Ethan didn't possess to gain access. The boys' locker room before and after gym class provided another perfect hunting ground for Derek and his friends. Tight spaces, minimal supervision, and plenty of opportunities for accidents involving wet floors or misplaced belongings. The main hallway junction between the science wing and the language arts department, nicknamed the Crossroads by students, served as the third primary danger zone, especially during the chaotic 4-minute passing periods. Initial conflict. Set up. Ethan's first encounter with Derek had occurred on just his second day at Westlake. While navigating the crowded hallway with his schedule in hand, Ethan had accidentally bumped into Marcus, spilling a few drops of the latter's energy drink. "Watch where you're going, new kid," Marcus had sneered, drawing Derek's attention. "What? You can't see where you're walking? Maybe those eyes are too squinty," Derek had added with a cruel laugh, making a mocking gesture at his own eyes. Ethan had mumbled an apology and quickly walked away, his cheeks burning. His parents' words echoed in his mind. Make a good impression. Don't cause trouble. Focus on fitting in. Years of disciplined training had taught him to control his impulses, to choose his battles. This wasn't worth fighting over, but that initial interaction had apparently marked him. Over the next 3 weeks, the incidents multiplied. In the cafeteria, Derek accidentally knocked Ethan's tray from his hands, scattering his lunch across the floor while nearby students laughed. During gym, his clothes mysteriously disappeared from his locker, forcing him to wear his sweaty gym uniform for the remainder of the day. Anonymous notes with crude drawings appeared in his locker. Each time, Ethan simply cleaned up, kept quiet, and moved on. "They'll get bored eventually if I don't react," he told himself, drawing on the mental discipline his uncle had instilled in him. Center yourself. Breathe. This is temporary. But the bullying only escalated. What began as occasional accidental shoulder checks in the hallway evolved into daily confrontations. Tyler began recording these incidents on his phone, creating short videos that circulated among the student body. Ethan became known as Ghost Boy, partly for his pale complexion compared to his tormentor's tanned skin, partly for how he seemed to try to disappear, and partly because, as Derek joked loudly one day, he's dead to everyone here. The other students had begun to take notice. Some gave Ethan pitying looks. Others deliberately avoided him, as though his status as a target might somehow be contagious. A few of the kinder students occasionally offered small gestures, helping him pick up scattered books or offering a sympathetic smile, but never when Derek or his friends were watching. Ms. Ramirez, Ethan's English teacher, had noticed the dynamic and kept Derek and Ethan separated during class activities, but her protection ended at her classroom door, and Ethan refused to report anything to the administration. "I'm not a snitch. I can handle this myself, eventually." Middle escalation. 4 weeks into the semester came the breaking point. During lunch period, Ethan sat alone at the far end of a table, eating quickly and hoping to finish before Derek and his entourage arrived. He had almost succeeded when the cafeteria suddenly hushed, followed by the sound of approaching laughter. "Well, if it isn't Ghost Boy eating all alone again," Derek announced, sliding onto the bench across from Ethan. Marcus and Tyler flanked him, while several other students gathered behind, sensing entertainment. Ethan kept his eyes on his tray, continuing to eat methodically. "Just a few more bites, then I can leave." "I'm talking to you," Derek said, his voice hardening. When Ethan still didn't respond, Derek reached across the table and pushed Ethan's tray into his chest, splattering sauce across his white t-shirt. The surrounding students gasped, then laughed. Tyler already had his phone out, recording. "Oops," Derek said with exaggerated innocence. "Looks like Ghost Boy had an accident." Ethan remained perfectly still, sauce dripping down his shirt. His breathing deepened slightly, the only external sign of the storm building within him. "What's wrong, can't speak English?" Marcus taunted, leaning forward. "Maybe he only speaks." "I speak 5 languages, actually," Ethan interrupted quietly, looking up for the first time. "English, Mandarin, Malay, Japanese, and Hokkien. How many do you speak?" The unexpected response momentarily silenced Marcus, but Derek quickly recovered. "Oh, it talks, and thinks it's smart too," Derek sneered, standing up. "Let's see if you're smart enough to know what's coming next, Ghost Boy." Derek circled around the table, approaching Ethan while Tyler kept filming. The surrounding students had formed a loose circle, their expressions ranging from discomfort to morbid fascination. "Stand up," Derek ordered. "This is it," Ethan thought. "The moment where I either remain a victim or change everything." His uncle's voice echoed in his mind. "Your skills are not for showing off. They are for protecting yourself when there is no other option." Was there another option? Ethan had tried ignoring them. He'd tried avoiding them. He'd tried minimizing contact. Nothing had worked. Slowly, Ethan rose from his seat, sauce still dripping from his shirt. "Take off that stupid hoodie," Derek commanded, grinning at his audience. "I want everyone to see Ghost Boy's accident properly." Something shifted in Ethan then, a subtle change in his posture, a straightening of his spine, a steadying of his gaze. For just a moment, his eyes flickered to the exits, the positions of everyone around him, the distance to Derek. "No," Ethan said quietly but firmly. Derek's eyes widened in mock surprise. "What was that? Did the ghost just say something?" "I said no." Ethan's voice was clearer now, steady and controlled. A hush fell over the gathered students. Even Tyler lowered his phone slightly, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Derek's face darkened. "You don't tell me no, new kid." He stepped closer, towering over Ethan. "Last chance. Take it off." Ethan met his gaze steadily. Or what? The challenge hung in the air between them. With a growl of frustration, Derek reached for Ethan's hoodie, intending to yank it off himself. His fingers had barely grasped the fabric when Ethan moved. A slight pivot, a subtle shift of weight. And suddenly Derek's momentum was carrying him forward into empty space as Ethan sidestepped with practiced ease. Derek stumbled, caught himself, and turned back with fury in his eyes. "Oh, you're dead now." From across the cafeteria, a teacher had finally noticed the commotion and began moving toward the growing circle of students, but she was still too far away to intervene. "I didn't start this," Ethan reminded himself as Derek advanced again. "But I will finish it." Climactic confrontation. Derek lunged forward with a wild swing that Ethan easily ducked under, years of training kicking in automatically. As Derek's momentum carried him forward again, Ethan remained perfectly balanced, his movements economical and precise. "Fight back, you coward!" Derek snarled, throwing another punch that whistled through empty air as Ethan shifted slightly to the side. The gathered students had fallen completely silent now, phones raised to capture what was unfolding. Even Marcus and Tyler stood frozen, unsure how to react to their leader's unexpected difficulty. "I don't want to fight you," Ethan said calmly, still avoiding Derek's increasingly frustrated attacks without striking back. "Just leave me alone." Derek's face had reddened with exertion and humiliation. "Stop! Swing, moving, swing, and fight!" Ethan caught Derek's wrist mid-swing, using the bully's own momentum to guide him off balance. "Fighting means we both get suspended," Ethan explained quietly. "I'm just defending myself." With a roar of frustration, Derek charged forward like a bull, attempting to tackle Ethan to the ground. In one fluid motion, Ethan sidestepped, used Derek's momentum against him, and executed a perfect hip toss that left Derek flat on his back on the cafeteria floor, the wind knocked out of him. The collective gasp from the onlookers was audible. Tyler's phone captured everything while Marcus stood with his mouth open. Ethan stood over Derek, his stance now completely transformed, balanced, centered, powerful. Gone was the slouching, avoidant new kid. In his place stood a trained fighter, his movements revealing years of disciplined practice. "Three-time junior MMA champion across Southeast Asia," Ethan said quietly, just loud enough for Derek and those closest to hear. "I didn't want anyone to know because I didn't want this. I just wanted to be normal here." Derek struggled to his feet, his face a mask of humiliation and rage. "You think this is over? You're—" But his words died in his throat as Ethan shifted, his stance slightly, a subtle movement that nonetheless communicated absolute readiness. "It's over if you want it to be," Ethan offered, his voice still calm. "Or we can continue, but I don't think you'll like where that leads." By now, Miss Peterson, the lunch monitor, had finally pushed through the circle of students. "What is going on here?" she demanded, looking between Derek and Ethan. Before either could respond, several voices from the crowd spoke up. "Derek attacked Ethan. Ethan was just defending himself. Derek started it. He pushed Ethan's lunch into him." Miss Peterson looked skeptical until someone thrust a phone in front of her, showing Tyler's recording of the entire incident from the beginning. "Both of you, principal's office. Now," she ordered, though her eyes lingered on Derek with clear disappointment. As Ethan walked away, followed by a fuming Derek, the whispers began immediately. The video was already being shared across the school, the narrative shifting in real time from quiet new kid gets bullied to secret martial arts. Expert takes down school bully without even throwing a punch. Resolution. Principal Whitman reviewed the videos, spoke with witnesses, and made his decision by the end of the day. Derek received 2 weeks of suspension for instigating the conflict, while Ethan was cleared of any punishment since video evidence clearly showed he had only defended himself without escalating the situation. When Ethan returned to school the next day, the change was immediate and disconcerting. Students who had never spoken to him before suddenly greeted him in the hallways. His usual isolated lunch table now had people asking to join him. In gym class, he was among the first picked for teams rather than the last. The videos had spread beyond just Westlake High, garnering thousands of views online. Some students had even discovered footage of Ethan's previous tournament fights in Singapore, further cementing his new reputation. Marcus and Tyler kept their distance, clearly unsure of their social standing without Derek to lead them. When Derek returned from suspension 2 weeks later, he was noticeably subdued. The incident had cost him his untouchable status, and with college football recruiters scheduled to attend the next few games, he couldn't risk further disciplinary issues. 3 days after Derek's return, he approached Ethan in the hallway between classes. Students nearby fell silent, phones ready to record whatever might happen next. "Can we talk?" Derek asked, his usual swagger notably absent. "Alone?" Ethan considered for a moment, then nodded. They stepped into an empty classroom, watched through the door windows by curious onlookers. "You could have really hurt me that day," Derek said after an uncomfortable silence. "But you didn't." Ethan shrugged. "That was never the point." "My dad saw the video," Derek continued. "He was not happy. He asked me what kind of man I was becoming." He paused, struggling with the words. "I'm not going to say we're friends or anything, but I'll back off, and so will Marcus and Tyler." It wasn't quite an apology, but Ethan recognized the effort it had taken. "That's all I wanted from the beginning," Ethan replied, simply. When they emerged from the classroom, the gathered students seemed disappointed by the lack of drama, quickly dispersing to their next classes. In the weeks that followed, Ethan slowly built a small circle of genuine friends, not people, attracted to his newfound fame, but classmates who appreciated his quiet confidence and now saw beyond his reserved exterior. He joined the school's martial arts club, eventually agreeing to help instruct other students. At his parents' encouragement, he also started a small weekly self-defense class, focusing not just on physical techniques, but on the mental discipline that had allowed him to handle the bullying without losing himself. The strongest person in any confrontation, he would tell his students, echoing his uncle's wisdom, is the one who remains in control of themselves, their emotions, and their actions. One afternoon, as Ethan was demonstrating a basic defensive stance to a group of younger students who had been dealing with their own bullying issues, he noticed Derek watching from the gym doorway. Their eyes met briefly across the room, not as enemies, not quite as friends, but with a mutual respect that hadn't existed before. Ethan gave a slight nod, which Derek returned before walking away. Sometimes standing your ground doesn't mean throwing the first punch, or any punch at all, Ethan thought, turning back to his students. It just means refusing to be moved from who you truly are. And that, he had discovered, was the most powerful stance of all.